There have been some great Tiger catchers over the years: Mickey Cochran, Bill Freehand, Lance Parrish, Pudge Rodriguez. One Hall of Famer who didn't play here but spent 43 years in the organization is the subject of a new book penned by his daughter. The great Rick Ferrell caught 4 knuckleball pitchers during his stint with the Washington Senators in the mid-1940s. And Kerrie Ferrell just wrote a book about dear old dad entitled Knuckleball Catcher.
It was a labor of love. It took me about 5 years to write and research, and it was absolutely a labor of love, and I enjoyed it very much. Rick Ferrell spent 66 years in Major League Baseball, which is an incredible length of time, 66 out of almost 90 years. And you can take away first of all, the story itself, which was his years as a catcher and then his years with the Detroit Tigers in the front office, but also his management style and the character and the personality, the type of man that he was, also shines through, and he was a Hall of Famer in every sense of the word.
There's a litany of firsts that he established in terms of records in the majors, didn't he?
You are so right. He played for 18 years from 1929 to 1947, and during those years he had several firsts. He was one of the first free agents ever in baseball, in Major League Baseball, in 1928. In 1933, he caught the entire first All-Star game at Comiskey Park in Chicago. The next year, he and his brother Wes Ferrell became the first brother battery pitcher-catcher combination in the American League. Rick Ferrell also was the first American leaguer to catch 1,800 games over 18 years, so that's an average of 100 games a year.
Wow.
Behind the plate. And
That's amazing.
That's amazing. And finally, he's the only catcher in history to catch 4 knuckleball pitchers in 1944 and 1945, when Washington actually gave the Detroit Tigers a run for first place and lost in the last week of the season.
What did he tell you about just the ability to catch a knuckleball pitcher?
Well, it's a terribly unpredictable pitch, and his main tip for other catchers was just to let it come to you. You can't reach for the ball because you don't know what it's going to do. It's such an unpredictable pitch. It can break and do anything. I mean, he had 21 passed balls those years, so if you were to see that statistic in isolation, you might think he couldn't catch. But the fact is he was catching 4 knuckleball pitchers, so he was a real regular, down-to-earth Southern gentleman, is pretty much how I describe him. And these characteristics of he was fair, he was quiet, he had a quiet authority about him, and he was college educated, so all of these traits served him well once he was in the Detroit Tigers front office.
And I had the pleasure of meeting him when he was in the Tigers front office. I sat next to him eating dinners on occasion. And what did he do in the front office that was of note?
Well, in 1959, he was appointed general manager, and that next he made the Harvey Keene and Rocky Colavito trade. Was one of the first trades that he helped do, and that was earth-shattering. It was the home run champion for the batting champion that year, and he also got Norm Cash for Steve Demeter that year. So that was a really great trade, and he okayed Willie Hernandez for the 1984 team. I mean, from 1959 to 1992, he was in the front office, so much of what went on was under his auspices. You know, the Tigers were very conservative up to 1992. The Fetzer years in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, early 80s, were very conservative, so they did not pay the big salaries and the long-term contracts.
Right. It was a different time,
for sure. It was a different time, so, you know, it's so hard to compare.